Stoneface Medusa. Stoneface Medusa. Stoneface Medusa. Stoneface Medusa. Face Medusa.
All right, and welcome back to the Where Were We Again podcast. That podcast where we just get lost in conversation and sometimes we go, hey, wait a second, where were we again? Exactly. Anyways, I'm excited. We've been talking about this probably in every episode to this point, and I mean literally almost every episode. We've talked a lot about the Kingdom Come Festival, and I thought it was about time to have a conversation with somebody that kind of is a big important factor behind this festival. So I brought on event coordinator Angie. Angie, you have had such a big, you've played a big part in making this festival happen over the years. So I wanted to bring you on and talk about this. I want more people to know about this thing. I've loved it, and so I want more people to love it. I want more people to go and be a part of it and all of those good things. So I wanted to talk about it. So I thank you for coming on. I know life is busy, so I appreciate you taking time out to come do this. And I want to start from the beginning, right? Let's talk about Kingdom Come. How did Kingdom Come get started?
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me.
Of course.
I know we've been trying to get this to happen for a little while. Things have been a little crazy.
Sure. I get it.
Oh, I know. So Kingdom Come Festival, I think the first year was maybe 2010. And oh gosh, the history. So my brother Jay and my uncle Chris are the co-founders of the ministry. We grew up, Jay and I grew up spending a lot of time with my uncle Chris. My dad was a Vietnam veteran that abandoned us. And so we spent a lot of time at our grandmother's house. And Chris is the youngest of 12. My mom is number 5 of 12.
Wow.
So we spent a lot of time over there. And Chris is the one who introduced Jay and I to Christian music, like way back, like Jesus Revolution kind of stuff. And then even beyond that, we grew up listening to Keith Green and Amy Grant and Daniel Amos and Phil Keaggy and just a lot of that kind of stuff. Although Chris never gave us permission, we always snuck and listened to his records when he wasn't there. He used to threaten to lock us in the basement or little. Hopefully that relationship is much better now. So anyway, as we got older, Chris and Jay started a band called Strange Reflection, and they were able to go play at Cornerstone a few years.
Oh, wow.
And which is really, really awesome. So, and I was a backup singer for a little while with Chris, but, so one year they decided they wanted to kind of do something fun. And Jay was working at the high school in Kokomo at the time, and he was getting all these reports from kids who were, telling him that they were going to, take their money or their clothes off, for money on Skype. Or they weren't going to study for their Spanish test or final because they were just going to sell drugs when they graduate anyway. Just all these horrible things that he was hearing that these kids are doing. And he and Chris together decided, why don't we use our band connections to come up with something, that we can offer a day, a festival for these kids to come out and just, to kind of an outreach kind of situation. And that's when Kingdom Come Festival was begun in 2010 when they had that conversation. It's either 6 bands in 6 hours or 8 bands in 8 hours. I can't remember. It was in downtown Kokomo, and it wasn't great. It's one of those don't despise the small beginnings, right? Because you don't know where it's going to go. They had Josh Randolph was with the band News from Verona at the time. They ended up changing their name to Pioneer. And then have since not. I don't think they're a band at all. But anyway, Josh told Jay, he said, don't give up. He said, I can see this, the crowds all the way to the tennis courts, which is a huge, big area. He says, just, you got a great thing started here. Don't give up. And so where Jay was like, oh, I just spent $1,000 of my own money on this. I just don't know if this is what we're supposed to be doing. And then he listened to Josh and kept going, and he and Chris kept going. And then I jumped on the next year. My husband, Dave, jumped on as tech director. And so I wonder sometimes if that's why the fest has this family feel to it, because it's basically a family run, and we just keep pulling more and more people into the family. every year. And so that's how it started. And then it just is it was kind of snowballing when we had it in Kokomo. And then we were told we couldn't have the festival in downtown Kokomo anymore. Well, let me say that differently. We couldn't have a multi-day festival in the park anymore. And God had kind of already built it up to 2 days. So we didn't feel like we should back it up just because they told us our music was too loud. And the irony to that is, at the time, they were having a summer concert series. So every weekend in the park, there was some kind of music, and they allowed us to jump on. So we had free advertising for the festival because it was part of their Kokomo summer concert series. And then we were told that we were too loud, but we were using the same production company they did. And they're not cranking ours up. And so I asked our connection there in the city. He said, I just don't understand why your festival is getting more complaints than the others. And I said, are you a Christian? And he said, yeah. And I said, then why do you not know why the Christian festival is getting all the complaints? The enemy does not want us here. He doesn't want us down here near the homeless people. He doesn't want us doing this outreach. There's a drug issue in Kokomo downtown. I mean, the enemy doesn't want us there. So he's going to have everybody complaining to you guys about us. And we usually would get to pick a date like Labor Day weekend for the following year. And we put in our date request and didn't hear anything back until February. Usually It was like a week or so. And then they said, we're just not going to have multi-day festivals in the park anymore. And so at that point, somebody suggested that we reach out to the Howard County Vietnam veterans because they have a stage out there. And so we did. And that's when we met the veterans and fell in love and got to move the festival out there and have camping and have our own little mini Cornerstone kind of thing out there.
And it's amazing. I love it. Right. I started going in 21 and and it's something I brought up in the podcast a lot was the fact that it does feel like family. And I think that's amazing to kind of hear that because I don't think I even realized like that really is a family organization. So I think that feeling permeates from the top down and it's different. It's amazing, and there really is something special about what you guys have going on. I want to stop for a second and talk about the Howard County Fairgrounds, the healing fields a little bit. Mm-hmm. There's something special about that if you haven't been, you don't really know about. But I think it really is really neat how that ties into all of what's happening with the festival and all that. And so what is the history behind the healing fields? Why is it called Healing Fields?
Well, for the veterans, the place is it's sacred to them, that place. They went through horrors that we can never even imagine. And when they go there, it is a place where there's no fighting. There's no, it's a place for them to heal and be together. And so they call that the healing fields. And sorry, I get kind of emotional when I think about the veterans. And it's a place that they have opened up to allow us to come in and for, whatever kind of healing that the individual attendee needs, it's just a place where everybody feels loved. I mean, when I step onto the fields at the beginning of every KCF, getting it ready, I just feel love. I just feel nothing but love when I'm on the grounds. And it's amazing. And we thank them so much for opening the place up. I mean, they pretty much let us take over the whole place.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
They're super sweet and helpful. And this is their home, and one of the first years we were there, the chaplain had said to us, with tears in his eyes, and said that the thing he loves the most about us being there is that we respect and love the grounds the way they do. And we're very, very careful and mindful of that. I mean, like I said, this is their home and they're letting us come in and take over. A little personal side note to this situation is that Jay and I had mentioned to you when we were talking earlier that our dad was a Vietnam veteran that abandoned us. And so to be able to be here with these veterans and come full circle and be welcomed and embraced and feel like they're family too, has just been a really neat personal thing for Jay and I.
It's healing on all fronts,
It is.
I-
Absolutely.
you're right. Every year I come on that, and I think that probably lends itself to some of that specialness that I feel when I come out there. But like you can feel something different on that ground, and I there's probably one of my favorite grounds for a festival. It really is. And you guys, I'm telling you, you guys do a great job of organizing that thing. And we'll get more into this later. But like, especially the way you've scheduled the lineup this year. I love it. I'm a huge fan. Like, I used to love like let's go to do music till 3:00 in the morning. You've lined up the music so well this year. I might actually make it back to my bed by midnight this year.
Yeah, we pull a lot of our ideas from what we remember Cornerstone to be. I mean, there'd be the midnight shows with Grave Robber and Flatfoot 56 that would have, some kind of a theme, Shark Week or whatever. And that's kind of what we were aiming for. But this crowd just isn't a big fan of being up that late at night. So, which is fine. So we're kind of restructuring things a little bit. So we're going to have, because it usually takes the headliner about an hour to get set up. So we're going to do the headliner for the, oh my gosh, the name's right out of my head. Subculture stage.
Yes.
Sorry.
I did it too.
I'm sorry, Dale. The subculture stage headliner will take place in that between time.
Yeah, so that's have to wonderful.
Be up quite so late, and because a lot of times because those people didn't want to stay up so late, then that that encore spot, what we're calling it, didn't get the love that it deserved, and because there's ministry going on there too. I mean, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want people to have any reason to miss any of the ministry that happens there. And that's another big thing for us. This festival is ministry first. Now, do we think things fall through the cracks? Sure. I mean, we try to have new people in every year, and we can't know every single, person. But we have a committee that we have do this, and I tell them before you even look at the first submission, pray, because there might be a band God wants there. They might not be the most, might have the best stage presence or whatever, but there might be a reason God wants them there this year. So we are trying to be really mindful of that. And this is God's festival.
I love that.
It's not ours.
I can tell, right? And it's not a coincidence that most of my guests have either performed or are about to perform at Kingdom Come, because one of the things that I do is I try to bring on people that truly represent the ministry. Mm-hmm. They don't necessarily have to have the Jesus per minutes that some bands do, but they have to represent and be real and authentic in their ministry. Right. Because I don't want to promote somebody that is going to end up causing harm to somebody, right? Or unintentionally or intentionally or otherwise, right? I want to bring on somebody that's going to really bring something good to to the people listening, right? So I want to promote good people. And so it's not a coincidence that most of my guests have performed at Kingdom Come for one direction or the other, right? But that brings that question. It's great you brought that up, because like, how do you go about the selection process, right? So you kind of handed out a little bit, but like, committee comes together and prays a little bit, but what is that process like? Because that's a hard challenge. There's a lot of factors that go into that, cost and travel and who's available, who's not available, and all of that. So how does that come together?
Yeah, that's the hardest. I say this a million times a year. That is the hardest part of the festival for me by far, because we can't have everybody, and everybody wants to play. And I hope that they understand that it's nothing personal. So anyway, what we do is we have them submit. Everybody that thinks they want to play, submit. And then we break them into genres. And then we have a committee of anywhere from 12 to 15 people go through all the submissions in the genres, and then they kind of rank them after they've prayed, of course, kind of rank them. And then we just tally up scores, and whoever gets the highest score, we ask them first and then next and so on. I don't know how else to do it. with that many that want to play. Sometimes I'll specifically say, okay, now keep an eye out for bands who have tried like every year and that haven't been chosen yet. And maybe, this is the year that we need to pray about giving them a chance. Some of them are just a no-brainer. I mean, the protest will never have to submit. They just won't.
They're family.
They are everything we look for in a band for KCF.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I love
of
those
course,
guys.
if we were to have a band best friend, it's the protest. I mean, we've done everything with them for forever now. But and so that's kind of how we start the process, and then whoever can't, and then we go to the next one and the next one, and so on. And where it gets really, where I feel the worst is like we only have, this is a rock festival, and it will always be predominantly a rock festival. It has to be. That's what we're called to do. That's the vision that God gave us. There's very few outlets for Christian rock like we have. Very few.
Sure. No, for sure.
You might have one, on Winter Jam, or a couple, on a stage at the others. And that's not to knock them. They're doing the vision that they've been given. But we really feel like this is, we need to keep this rock. But at the same time, we want to make sure there's something to connect with everybody that comes on the field, And so that's why early in the day we'll have, a pop, a rap, a punk, and that sort of thing. We'll start with a CCM, slower kind of worship thing usually. And so there'll be, let's say there's 50, pop artists that, apply or submit. Well, we only have like 3 or 4 spots. So how many no's do we have to give? And that's really hard for me. And then every once in a while, there'll be a band that will say, what did we do wrong? What can we do? What do we need to change to be able to play? And to that, my response is usually nothing. If you're doing what God is telling you to do, then maybe you're not meant to be at the festival. You don't change for the festival. You still have to do what God's telling you to do. And when it's his time, you'll be there. And he just might have a different plan. That kind of gets to me a little bit when people think they should change what God's telling them to do so that they can fit into the festival. But I understand, and I feel bad. I'm usually in tears by the end of the semester process because I feel so bad that so many people have to be told no, because we only have however many spots, 50 plus spots now between the 2 stages and the 3 days. And if I'm being honest, that's why we have the 3rd day added, because I was so tired of telling people no. I'm like, can we just add a little bit more? Can we just do the kickoff and have some more? And it's still, it's great. People love it. I'm glad we did it, but it's still not enough spots for everybody.
I don't think it ever will be enough, right? A rough guesstimate, like how many submissions do you see on average?
A few hundred for sure.
That's a nuts.
And that's just the ones that, reach out to us through the submission link. There's probably, we still get emails from people, and I could list probably 50 right now in my inbox that are saying, hey, if you have a spot open up, we're new, we'd be interested. And I say, check out the submission link in the fall. And of course, in like Disciple, they probably won't submit. Usually we go after them. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's getting more and more every year, which is, I guess, a good problem to have, but
it's challenged, that's for sure. But man, I mean, I'll give you credit. I mean, you guys do a fantastic job with your lineups. It's interesting you say it's a primary rock festival, and it very much is. But I love the variety you come up with and the way you structure that, right? Because it's, what festival is it that you're going to go to that on the main stage you've got Honey Tree, and on the second stage you've got Brutality.
Right.
I mean, it's just amazing, right? And I love the fact that it almost feels very, very intentional that like at any given point, there's going to be something for somebody somewhere.
Yeah.
So everybody, Yeah, and it feels that way, you know. So the lineup always feels well balanced, and unique too. Again, because where do you see such combinations?
Well,
But
we
it's
do what
done well.
we call it bounce and build. So the goal is to bounce between genres through the day and then build in the energy through the day. So whereas I don't want to say any specific band names, but there's been some bigger CCM bands that we've had connections to that, you know, have kind of said, well, maybe you should have us out to KCF. And I'm thinking, I mean, yeah, you could come, but you'd be playing at like 11 in the morning. And because you're just not quite, you know, hard enough for the vision that God gave us. I mean, it's not us being mean or rude or snotty or whatever, but you know, if you mess with the vision, then you're going to be messing with your provision, you know, and we want to
Mm-hmm.
keep this the way God intended it. And it's mainly rock. I mean, it's an outreach. There's so many people that not, you know, Caleb and the CCM stuff is fantastic. And it's really great, especially for edifying people already in the body. But when there's people that have lived in really dark places, that doesn't connect usually for them.
For
They
sure.
need people that have also been in those dark places. And that's what a lot of this rock, you know, can do. It can connect with them and pull them out and show them that, you know, you can be in those deep places, but still find the light, you know,
Yeah.
get out of those places. And they really relate to this stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And we've lost sponsors because of bands like Grave Robber, which I think is
Jeez.
it's so sad to me because obviously they aren't listening to
No, of
anything
course
Grave
not.
Robber has to say.
No,
And you
very
know,
very shocking, but great message.
yeah. And who's going to get the attention of the kids listening to, you know, Marilyn Manson and Slipknot and Guar and all that stuff? It's not going to be Toby Mac. I mean, I love Toby Mac, but they're not going to listen to that. They're going to get, you know, the hook is Grave Robber.
Yeah.
You know, that it's just kind of sad to me that
No, for
people
sure.
don't give them, yeah,
No,
so much, just
absolutely.
the rock genre in general. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for us to get church sponsors or religious sponsors because they see the rock as devil music and they won't come.
It's amazing
So
that's still a problem these days, but it is. It
it
really is. I
is.
know that feeling.
Mhm.
You know, and I'll talk more a little bit about the lineup. There's, you know, like you guys do a great job of, you know, balancing out, but um, I have seen some surprises in the early afternoon sometimes. And you know, like I think it was 21. I think either 20, no 20, maybe it was 22, but it was on Saturday, and it was probably right about 12:30, and there's this band I'd never heard the name. Like it said Sean Olivier. I'm like, okay, I've never heard that name, but sure. And so I'm sitting there like, okay. And these guys get up on stage, and within the first song, the entire festival stopped, turned around, and ran up to the stage, and they had everybody at the festival. And I'm like, what the heck? You know, the Mac does it, D Swan does it. Like some of these guys you're getting at noon just suddenly like surprise you, and we're like, wow.
Mhm.
You know, I love that. So you know, it's just that's why, like, for me, it feels like you can't miss at any point a Kingdom Come, because you're always going to be surprised by whoever's on that stage. Um,
Mhm.
it's so much fun. We were joking about that. I was talking on this last episode that went out. I've talked to Mac a couple times about it, but we were talking to Mac about that. I'm just like, that's always a great judge of how good a performer is. Is one, if you're playing on the stage at noon, how many people can you get to come run up at the stage because suddenly like you caught their attention? That's a good judge of a great performer. But two,
Yeah.
my example for this was American Arson last year, because I haven't heard of them yet. They were new to me last year.
Love
And
them.
I'm sitting behind the console, kind of hiding in the back corner with Jeanette, editing some pictures, and I heard some sound check. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. It's two guys on the stage, and it sounds like it's going to be heavy, but there's very few bands I've seen be able to pull off heavy with two guys. Okay. All
Right.
right. And I kind of put my head back down and started editing again. And I look up and I'm like, what just happened? They kick off their first song and I got blown away by these two guys just like absolutely tearing it up. So, it's like that's usually my other recommendation. The fewer the people, and you can still get that kind of energy going. Yeah, I'm all for it. Like, so I love the surprises you guys come up with. Just like some of these bands, you guys have introduced me to a lot of bands that way. And that's been so much
That's
fun just
awesome.
to learn somebody new and be like, this is great. Like Rusty Ship last year. I knew of Rusty Ship. I've heard about them floating around and stuff, but to see them play was just so much fun. Like, it's nautical rock. Cool. I love it.
Yeah. They're a lot of fun.
Not not yacht rock. Nautical
Right.
rock. There's a huge difference in those two things.
Giant difference. Yeah. That's hilarious.
But Rusty actually has reached out and asked, he's probably going to come on here at some point this year too. So be watching for that. But,
really great guy.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But yeah, so, again, kudos on the lineup. It's fantastic. Love that. But you talk about this being a rock festival and you really want to keep to the heart of that. But there's something else that A1M puts on every year now, towards the fall that rock adjacent. We call this Pit Fest. How did that happen?
Well, Chris really has a heart for kids who are and people really who are in the really dark places. The idea of the pit came from scripture. I couldn't tell you what it is exactly right now, but even in the depths, you're with me. And in the pit, you're not alone. God's still with you, even in the pit. And so he started it was a series that was monthly, I think, and we'd try to do it in secular venues, have a couple of Christian bands and a couple secular bands, and it was more like the screamo stuff. I mean, it was really hard, and that didn't end up panning out. We started to build a relationship with some kids that would come regularly, and then one of the kids did some damage to the building we were having it in, and so they kicked us out. So we haven't really found a good place to continue with the pit shows, but in the meantime, we just decided, well, why don't we have a pit fest, where it's all harder stuff, or not necessarily hard, but sometimes just out of the mainstream, like Leper, places that just don't have a lot of, or bands, I'm sorry, that don't have a lot of, outlets to play that kind of music. And so, and that's where Pit Fest started. We had it at a church for a while, which is great, except, the whole point of a lot of what we're doing is outreach, and it's just really difficult to get people to come to a church to be, as part of outreach. So then the last couple of years, we moved it out to the Veterans Grounds, and it's doing really well out there too. Just the weather's so hit and miss. It's hard.
Yeah, for sure.
But we really, that's been, it's just a 1-day fest. It runs very similar to Kingdom Come Festival as far as, the rest of the day and the event itself. But we really have a great time with that too.
Yeah. We got to talk a little bit about that with Becca back in October.
Oh, she helps with that so much.
Oh gosh, yeah. It was great. I mean, it was because we recorded the episode not long before Pit Fest was going to kick off. So she was, we talked about that, talked about her solo tour she went off on, and that was we got to hear a lot of good things about Pit Fest. But I love that. That's great, right? So you love what's great about like the heavy stuff at Kingdom Come or some of the more, not mainstream things. Well, go to Pit Fest, go get that too, because it's enough time between like. Perfect. You can save up for travel in between.
That's right.
But no, I love it.
It's still free.
That's awesome. I love that. I love the fact that you guys work so hard to keep this free.
Yes. It's again part of the vision. And, if you want to reach, non-Christians, they're not going to come to a Christian festival they have to pay for, they'll check it out. And I know this for a fact because we've heard so many stories about so-and-so was going to go to see Disciple. So I tagged along with my friend who was going to see Disciple, and while I was there, and I only went because it was free and did everything else to do. And while I was there, I got saved. You know,
Yeah.
one of our volunteers was told that specifically. She went in to get her phone fixed at like AT&T or Verizon. I don't remember where it was. And the the guy that waited on her recognized her from the festival, and he told her the same story. But his friend took him to see Decipher Down, and he was saved that night at the festival. Just it will. I shouldn't say this always, but as long as I'm involved, it's going to be free. And I know Jay and Chris feel the same way. And so that makes it tricky to be able to pay the bands as much as they're worth and to do all the things we would love to do. Because, like I said, you can't get. I shouldn't say you can't. It's difficult to get church sponsors because of the style of music, and it's difficult to get business sponsors because it's Christian. So, um, we literally trust God to bring in whatever we need. Last year we were quite a bit short, but not nearly as short as we were when we were going into it. We went into it like 16,000 short, and we're only 4 or 5 at the end of last year. So, it's hard. This is probably majority of this is a crowd-funded festival.
Yeah.
People are just so generous and just donate because they know it's important and they want to keep it going, and they listen to God, leading, and for the most part, every year we have almost exactly what we need by the end of the festival.
Which is, I mean, and that's just amazing that comes together. But again, that tells me like you're doing the right thing, right?
Exactly.
As long as you stay and
Yep.
do what you're doing the right thing, it'll be there for you.
Yep.
I love that. Right. So let's
Me
shift
too.
a little bit and turn this around a little bit. Let's talk about the power behind this, the A1M. So
Okay.
what does that stand for? And how did that start? Did that come first, or did the Kingdom come first and A1M grow out of that?
Yeah. So after Kingdom Come Festival started, there were just several ideas and things that Chris and Jay wanted to do. Chris wanted to do this pit kind of series things, and there was a time that this Christmas outreach idea started, which is something we could mention briefly if you wanted to. But
Please.
So we had all these other things we wanted to do, and so we decided. I think it was Jay, and I think it might have been Jay. Decided to make like this kind of like this umbrella organization that kind of takes care of all those things. And that's when A1M, or Always One Ministries, was birthed. And it stands for, or the name behind it is something that Jay felt like God was telling him, which was, no matter where you're at and what you're doing, there's always one person you can reach out to. There's always one person that you can minister to. There's always one person that you can love on. Jesus is about the one. He went back for the one, right? The one sheep. And you have no idea the snowball or domino effect of saving one person. Billy Graham was one person, right? And so it just kind of revolves around that concept. And so because we're lazy, we abbreviate everything, KCF and A1M, and it's just so that we kind of did that to make an all-encompassing organization umbrella for all the other things we wanted to do.
That's great. I love that. And let's talk about the Christmas outreach a little bit, because what's kind of cool then is outside of that, you guys have kind of grown to even do more outreach and trying to help others, right? So you got this cool Christmas outreach that's there for that, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of fun with that. KCF is obviously my favorite, but Christmas is awfully close. What we do, and this is another brainchild of Jay and the protest. Jay went to see them play in a concert somewhere in, oh gosh, maybe Muncie, or I don't know. It was Central Indiana, and the show got canceled like at the last minute or something, I think. So they left and went to eat Burger King or something. They were just sitting around having dinner and chatting, and decided that it'd be nice to be able to do something that's music related, but more than just playing in a concert, right? And so they decided that maybe what about like a Christmas outreach kind of thing. And so what we do is we find families local to Kokomo that are not getting Christmas help from anybody else, as far as we know. And we shop for them. And I call each family individually and I say, tell me, I want the lowdown on everybody. I want to know favorites, colors and sizes and hobbies and interests. And, I don't want to just give them stuff. I want to give them love. And when you take the time to really get to know them and what they like and shop for these people specifically, they feel it. They know that, it's not just, you can't buy something for a 10-year-old boy and gonna nail it with every 10-year-old boy. Some are gamers, some are athletes, some are, artists. You can't. And so we take the time to get to know them, the families, then we shop. And then the day of the event, we take some bands with us to deliver the gifts. Then we have a big family meal open or with the staff and the bands and the families. If they want to come, we don't make them come. And then that night we have a free show open to the public featuring the bands that delivered with us. And we turn into this big, crazy family Christmas party. I mean, we do just the most awful things to the bands. We make them play games, and it's hilarious. If you ever want something to do, look, it's probably on the A1M Facebook page. I think they post pictures every year of the craziness and then the show and stuff. And the protest is involved somehow every year.
I love that. I absolutely love that. That's just the heart of ministry right there, making a difference where you live.
And Jay and I when we were younger, we were on the receiving end of things like that. So that's another full circle thing for us to be able to do that. So it's really neat.
That's just, I love that. I really do. Again, it speaks to the heart of everything behind this. Man, which now I want to ask more. So, I want to know, like, what was some of your favorite, like, ministry stories that have come out of Kingdom Come over the years? And I know there are countless. I mean, every year there's probably countless, but like, what is some of the ones that just stand out? Like, this was just such an amazing thing that happened. Just life change impact kind of thing.
Well, there's always, it's not uncommon to just look around the fields and see a band member praying with some attendee, which I love that. I love how approachable the bands are. I mean, even if we had millions of dollars and could get any bands that we wanted, I don't think we'd want to go any bigger because it would change the whole dynamic of the festival, I think. But one of the stories that stands out to me the most and will always stand out to me is there was a gentleman that came, and we found out that he had terminal cancer, and he had driven from Ohio to see I Am Spartacus. Well, the traffic was bad and he missed their set. And so when I found out about it, I went to Ben Peoples, who was the lead singer of I Am Spartacus, and Brady was with them at the time. And I went and explained the situation. And I said, he came for you guys and he missed your set. And so they took him, just him, to the back of the grounds under the memorial, under the big flag, and did an acoustic set just for him.
Wow.
And it was pretty emotional. And the man just had the best time. He was singing every one of their songs with them and just smiling, and it was just pure, it was joy. It was pure joy watching that happen back there. And that will always be one of my favorite stories from the festival. And then you have things like, well, every year the weather forecast looks horrendous, and it never fails to just watch. You can watch it on the radar, and the big red mass will split around the festival
every
and keep going.
time.
We might get some rain, but
yeah,
it just, God really protects those fields. We had one young lady came. They were on their way to the grounds, and the forecast looked really bad. And she came in and was so excited and wanted to tell us that when she looked from a distance, looked at the fields, it looked like there was like angel wings, like in the clouds, hovering over just the grounds, which is, I don't know. It just
That's
gave me
awesome.
goosebumps when that girl was telling me that. I don't know. There's so many things. 2 years ago, I think, maybe it was like, oh gosh, I'm not great with dates, but we had the president of the Vietnam Veterans Grounds was having a stroke in the back of the grounds, and another band member, as soon as he walked on the ground, started seizing, and we had all these medical things like happening right at the exact same time. And then they, obviously the ambulance came and took them, and we got like major praise reports because from the stage we were praying for these people. And the gentleman that had the seizures came back and played later that night. And the president of the veterans grounds, the doctors were saying it is an absolute miracle that he is up and talking and doing what he was doing within hours of
Wow.
having the stroke. That nothing he was doing he was supposed to be doing. And just, I mean, there's straight up, we witnessed, miracles. And that particular year, we also had, I don't know how many bands, when they came to check in, would give some story about, man, we almost didn't make it because this traffic thing or this other thing or my aunt and almost every one of them had something like fairly big happen and they almost didn't make it. And that's when you're doing the right thing, when the enemy's trying to stop everybody from being there and putting little kinks in the day and stuff. And he
Oh
didn't
yeah.
win, man. We still had a great time and people got saved and we kept on rocking.
It was a good one. I tell you what. Yeah, I think that was last year because that was and I can't remember if it was last year or the year before too, but I remember Chaotic Resemblance stopped their set, jumped off the stage and ran in the middle of the crowd, prayed over somebody right then and there because of something happening. Yeah. I mean, just stuff like that is just, again, this just tells you just how different this festival is because that's normal, right? Something's going down. Like they stopped. The show's done. We're going to go deal with whatever's happening. Ministry first, music second. And it's true. It shows through. I love that.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner. The best story, I mean, they're all wonderful. I shouldn't say there's a best story, but coincidentally, the same year that we were kicked out of Kokomo, I shouldn't say it that way. The same year.
We love you, Kokomo.
They opted not to. I love Kokomo. I just, it's kind of, it just makes me sad because, it's one of those shake the dust off kind of things. We wanted to be there. God wanted to help. And, that's the way it happened. But that same year, I went into my camper, which is like our KCF office, so to speak, during the festival. And I went in to my camper and I came out and Trevor Hyde was on the stage and the entire park was on their knees when I came out, which is really awesome and really surreal. And then a little bit later, the protests were playing and this homeless girl ran up on the stage in the middle of their set and grabbed Josh and Josh tells me this later, he says, she looked at him and said, "I'm scared to die." And he stopped playing, just stopped singing altogether, and got on his knees with her right there on the stage and prayed with her. And then the other members of the protest went over and laid hands on her. And then other members of other bands who were also on the stage went over and laid hands on her. And she was prayed into salvation right there on the stage in front of everybody. They stopped the set completely for her.
Wow.
And that was just, I mean, I have chills again thinking about that. Then later that evening, Tank from Nine Lashes, who was, I think they might have been direct support that night for Ashes Remain, actually. Tank came out and did a little impromptu, altar call, and the step in front of the stage was completely full of people given their life to Christ or rededicating their lives. And Jay refers to that night as the Holy Spirit tsunami that came over the whole festival. I think direct support and headliners maybe got to play for like 20 minutes a piece or something because
Wow.
there was a noise ordinance. We had to stop at 11, and they gave up all that time to do ministry. And that tsunami just took over that festival, and it was amazing. And there's no words. It was incredible. And it was after that year that we had to move, that we ended up with the veterans.
I love the fact that you used the metaphor tsunami, because, and this
basically it was.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think you know, because when I talk about I heard about the festival for years, like, cause just different things. Well, that was actually that story, those two stories were really what I heard first, because I saw the picture of Josh on his knees praying with that girl.
Yeah.
And then the people at the altar call too. Those stories were actually the first things I heard coming out of Kingdom Come. So that, and I'll tell you, that spread to Missouri and further, just that moment alone. So that tells you just how far that spread. And it's really cool, even in the early days, how much of an impact that festival had and is still continuing to have, right? Because
That's awesome.
I mean, you guys are pulling people from probably half the states at this point. Just people are just traveling from everywhere to come be here. And again, it's partially because of the cool lineup, but because it's different, it's unique, and there's life change that can happen here. Yeah. So I love that. I absolutely love that. And I love that you guys keep all of that at the forefront. That's so hard to do as you grow, to try to keep that. And you do such a great job of it. So I appreciate that for sure.
Well, thank you. Well, as long as we can, we that the Toby Mac song, "Steal My Show." We do all the legwork. We do, we're the hands and feet. And that morning after we pray, we just say, "Here you go. You can take it. If you want another tsunami situation, go for it. This is yours. All yours, God."
No, I love that. I mean, again, that probably contributes to the feeling you get when you step on the grounds.
Yes.
Well, let's shift the gears a little bit. I want to kind of have some fun. Let's think about some of the most fun, just like hilarious stories that have come out over the years, because any festival is going to have them. But I mean, especially when you deal with some of the guys and some of these bands you have, there's just some very interesting characters in these bands. So I know there's some fun that's come out, funny stories that come out of these.
so much. Now, I don't get to see as much as I would like to, because I'm usually literally running from here, there, and everywhere. But anytime Daniel Streety from Bread for War is there, there's pranks galore. He and I can't even remember who it was now. They had the blue, dust or whatever. You pop it open and blue stuff.
Yeah.
I can't remember who that was. I just don't remember Daniel being involved. He's hilarious. I don't know. There's like lots of little funny things. Patrick Madsen, Susie, or Zana's husband, Patrick Nesdam, I guess he's got his own thing going on. He is really funny too.
Oh my gosh, yes.
There was one day that the people were cutting open the sides of the tent for merch, which was not cool that they were doing that, but it was really hot in there. And things were like flying and falling over him. He said something about, I think he said something like, "Dear God, please let there be some wind," or something. And just as he said that, a big gust of wind came through, and Trevor Hyde's banner came down and smacked him on the back of the head. And he was like, "Okay, not quite what I had in mind with the banner at the wind." And this just the stories and the craziness. There was one time, TJ Harris from Decipher Down, he wanted me to help him kind of play a little trick on the guys from Disciple. So he put on some even thicker Southern drawl, if you can imagine, because he's already got a really thick Southern drawl, and pretended like he was some mechanic or something wrong with something on their bus. I don't know. It was just really funny hearing him do that. And it's just shenanigans, like college boy, best friend shenanigans. And they all do it to each other. And it's just, I don't know. It's just so much fun. And when Brady and Ben Brady and Ben from I Am Spartacus were around, those two had me laughing like all the time. And Trevor Hyde wanted to jump over them. I think there was like a gator, and then were they on the gator or near the gator? I don't know. And Trevor was going to jump over them on their skateboard. And Ben was like, yeah, let's do it. And Brady was like terrified. It was fun. The things that they just do are just really funny.
Oh my gosh, that I love that, and you could tell like these guys are just having because you can see them running around the ground throughout the whole day because a lot of these bands they'll come play early afternoon, mid afternoon, whatever, or even in the evening and stay till the next day, and they're floating around the whole festival just goofing off, having all kinds of fun. It's just the best thing to watch. I love it,
especially the guys in the protest and chaotic resemblance. Those they are all acting it. Yeah, no, and that's just the beauty of it, it's like exactly like you'd act at a family reunion.
Yeah, for sure. It really does feel like that. I can't say that enough. It really is. That is what it is. Man, this has been such much fun, but I want to turn it around for a second. I've been doing this on pretty much every episode, and I kind of decided just to make it a part of every episode because I have no idea where this ends up, and it always turns somewhere very interesting. So it's your turn. Ask me a question. Is there anything that like just comes to mind? You're like, what comes to mind? Like, what was something you like?
Well, two different things came to my mind. I was kind of curious how you got into the photography thing, and then if you could change or add anything to KCF, what would it be?
Ooh, man. So I'll start with the photography one because you made that a really challenging question. I love that. So photography, right? So, my photography, it was just me messing around. My grandmother let me just have, because essentially she never wanted this back. She had an old Canon Rebel XT, this nice DSLR. And this was probably 2005 or 7. So it was still a pretty decent camera at the time. She never used it, so she just gave it to me. I was like, okay. And I didn't do anything with it. I just kind of played with it, whatever. And I ended up going to Agape Fest. I don't know if you're familiar with that festival. It died off a long time ago, unfortunately. That was a really great festival that was really close to me. But it was cool because I was doing stuff like this. I had the page called the Christian Music Source, which if you guys paid attention, if you guys been following that, yes, I changed the name of Christian Music Source to Where Were We Again and just made a podcast out of it. But, I've been doing music stuff like this forever, promoting bands, pushing music and all that. So I was at Agape Fest. I finally got a press pass. I'm like, I had a website. They're like, you can have a press pass if you get a website. So I got a website. They said, okay, you can have one. So I'm running around and I brought my camera just for the fun of it. And I realized my press pass let me get in the photo pit and let me get on side stage. I'm like, let me try. I might actually be able to get some decent camera shots. So I tried and I'm like, okay. And so I had some pretty decent shots. I was like, okay. I posted them to Facebook, tagged some band members. Next thing you know, like Jeremy Holderfield of 7 Day Slumber made it his profile picture, said, this is amazing. I'm like, what? I had Derek Mount of Family Force 5 liking one of the pictures I had tagged him. And I'm just like, this is it. They like this? Huh. And then I didn't do anymore. I didn't touch it for a long time. I did a few little like random things, but I never did like real shows again. And I come to KCF 2021. I brought my camera and started playing again. Now I'm just like trying to squeeze in between people and kind of pop up in the middle. Like, hey, Jeanette, how do you do the stuff you do? And I started listening to Jeanette a little bit, taking some advice and kind of brought that back to next year and just upped my game. And it's something I really enjoy doing. And it's been so much fun doing it at Kingdom Come because I've gotten to connect with Jeanette and Chad and Katie and see people that are far better than me, but taking some of their stuff and learning from it and getting better myself. So taking that family mentality, they brought me into the family and started teaching me how to be a better photographer, and so I've been having a lot of fun with that, I'll eventually probably do more with it, but it's just been fun because I get to have fun being creative. And that's not
Yeah.
something I normally get to have an outlet for. So,
That's cool.
it's a small little thing, but it makes a huge impact. It's just, I get to feel part of it. You almost feel part of the band when you're doing that, right?
Mhm.
Because you're connecting with them. You're looking at it. It's like, it's such a different feeling, and it's so much fun. So no, I love that. Oh, all right. I thought mm, I love the lineups. I love the way you do things. The only thing I could think of is like, I would love more food options. That's
Well,
like, I'm a snacker, man. Like, I love food options. So, because unfortunately there's been times I have snuck off into town to grab something and come back, because like, I love American hot dogs, but I'll eat like 3 of those throughout the day. I'm like, okay, no more hot dogs. I need to get, or
yes,
whatever. So I'll go in and go into town and get like a pizza or something and come back. But that's
I get
pretty
that.
about it,
We've tried to get more food vendors in there as long as they don't sell the same things that we sell. We're fine with
right.
having, because we want to, where we don't want to, we can't spend more money. We don't have
Sure.
it. We still want to make sure that the attendees have a great experience. And if that can mean more vendors coming in, then, great. The Sweet Fun concessions,
Oh, I love Sarah.
haven't been able to be there for, was it last year or the year before?
Last year.
And
Yeah.
they do the corn dogs and the cotton candy.
Fresh squeezed lemonade. That gets me in trouble every year.
Yes. Strawberry lemon
Ooh.
shake-ups are the best.
Yeah.
I was introduced to that at Cornerstone.
Wow. The Prost family, they're so great. I love them. They're big supporters of this community anyways.
Yes.
It's funny. I think they're from like the Missouri, Iowa-ish, and so they've actually been popping in and out of shows that I've been adjacent to for years, which is, I just never realized it. So that was kind of cool. But no, I love that. But that's it. I mean, I don't really have much else that you guys could do better, because it's just, I love the size. I love the fact that it's not some massive band on the stage that's 120 feet away from me that I can't really see them because it's too big.
Right.
It's the perfect, like, it's a well-balanced show. So it's great. I love it. You guys are doing
And
fantastic.
that's what I think is so funny when we get all these random people that, want to get photo passes and be able to get on the stage. And I'm like, you already
Don't
close
need
enough.
one.
You
Yeah.
you really don't need to, you don't need anything special because everybody is right there.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
right
honestly, I probably did spend more time, even with my photo pass, like in the crowd taking pictures than I did behind the rope, because it was just fun to get like, one, I don't have a lot of great lenses, so I can't be that close. I can't get zoomed. Like, my zoom lenses are too big, so I have to be in the crowd. But it's a great festival for that. So, I mean, and I love the fact you guys like, no, bring your camera, do that. Let's have some fun, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's what makes us look cool, right? It's all the people, pictures and
right?
stuff.
No, for real, I love it. I love it so much.
We are doing a couple little things different. Like I had said, that the headliner or the encore is not going to be called the headliner and be played at a different time. And D Swan is going to join us with his DJ station. I don't know what to call that. And he might have told you about that. And he's going to be like doing some hype kind of stuff in between different band sets through the day. Not every band set, but several times through the day.
That's
to keep the crowd pumped.
Now that you say it, that was probably another suggestion. I think it's a great idea, is to do something like that, and you've already done it. So that he's a great person for that anyways, right? Like, he can just sit there between his tables and throw together some great tracks and get some energy. I mean, he's been, one of his songs is the intro and outro music of this podcast, because it's just fun, like high energy stuff. I love that,
Yeah.
Which, and that's funny too. And I'll sidetrack a half a second, because I've known D for many years. He actually was, because he grew up here in the St. Louis area, and he had this indie rock, pop rock, heavy rock. I don't even know. Like, it was good, loud rock music. And this band called Interplaws. And it was, and him and fronting a band like that, you could take his energy and just put it in front of a rock band. I mean, it was awesome. I had him do shows for me a couple times. Heck, I think I had him open I can't remember for certain, but I'm pretty sure I had him open for the protest and Last Watch once.
Mm,
So you could imagine that would be an amazing set with Dean
yeah.
fronting a rock band, opening for the protest and Last Watch. So that was a great lineup nonetheless, right? But I get never good enough people to show up to my shows anyways around here. St. Louis is so weird for stuff like that. But
well, it's not a lot better in this area.
for
KCF
sure.
has just kind of built its own, and the dream of ours is to have our own building, to be able to have our own shows, whatever we want, whenever we want, and we'd love to have a dorm, in there, so bands traveling through could have a place to crash. And we've got this vision for this thing, and someday, if God wants us to have it, we'll have it. In the meantime, we'll just truck along with what we're doing. But Dee's going to have his own set on Thursday at the kickoff, and then still do the other stuff on Friday and Saturday around the main stage.
I love that.
The other thing we're going to do is the sweetest young lady, Jen Lamaris, is going to help to head up like a kids area that'll be open just certain hours of the day. She's got some really neat ideas. One of them is to make like get band logos and make coloring pages out of them. And so the kids can do that and see if we can get some of the band members from some of the bands, which I'm sure we can, to come over and visit with the kids for a little bit, maybe do something. We might have a photo booth. They can take pictures, of each other just being silly, or with musical props of some sort. And then, but Jen's got a whole bunch of little fun things lined up for that.
I love that.
That's something that had been suggested to us before with the kids. It's just been a matter of, not having someone who could kind of take it over. And Jen has so graciously offered to do that, which I appreciate so much. We've had bounce houses in the past, but that kind of takes the insurance rate up a little bit, and
just a hair
more people to man it, which we don't really have. So
no,
but anyway, I'm excited. So that's a new thing, is a little children's area. I'm just not exactly sure where that's going to go. We got a little surprise about maybe not having that big tent there this year. So we got some things to tweak, and if we could get more donations to pay for a tent, that would be fantastic. But if not, then God just has a different plan.
Yeah,
I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yep. I mean, there's always been tweaks, right? I mean, for a while there, like the second stage was out to the left side of the main stage, and now we got that in the barn. Like it's, there's always tweaks, and it's always fun. You guys do such a great job with that. I know you'll come through, but I appreciate you coming on. So we're going to kind of wind this down a little bit, but I want to do like I always do with these podcasts when I wind them up or wind them down, because wind it down. See, this is what happens when you don't get sleep. But no, so I love this because everybody has a different heart and a different idea and something different to get out. And so I always wind down and ask, if you had a message that you just had to get out, like you're not gonna be able to communicate messages to anybody else, like this is the most important thing you get out. What is a message that you would just want to share for everybody listening, that this is what matters
for KCF or for
period
in general?
Period.
But KCF too. I mean, it's all kind of the same thing. There's a hurting world out there, and they need to know Jesus is there, and they need to know Jesus loves them. And this festival is one way for us to do that. And this festival is an introduction to Jesus, and it's nothing but love and no judgment, and just come out and just meet this fantastic, Savior that wants to be a part of your life and wants to heal you and do everything that you need to be done. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing for me, is if this hurting world needs to find Jesus, KCF is a great place to have that happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't attest to that more. I come back every year. So with that being said, you've mentioned it, and I want to bring it up because it's very, very important. Maybe you can't make it. Maybe you can make it. Maybe you have means. I don't know your situation, but this is a fantastic ministry that's impacted a lot of lives And it really does. And it's amazing because we don't get to talk about this side enough, but it has a huge impact on the artist too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and we've had this in these conversations a lot with these podcasts. Like, these artists, this festival has a huge impact on their lives, and it becomes one of their favorite things to do. There's been life change on their part. There's been life change of people who attend. It's a huge impact, and it's making a huge impact, and it's going to continue to do so.
Yeah, we had a situation where, when we first started all this, it was, for the youth to have a place to go and feel loved and, taken care of. And then it was all about the attendees. And then we started hearing stories from bands that would come in. One of the pit shows we had, back in the day, we had an extra bag of potato chips. So we let one of the bands take it home, and they were so excited. You would have thought they won like an Oscar or something. I mean, they're like, we have dinner. And that broke my heart, and then we kind of switched gears, not only to take care of the attendees, but the bands as well. And we've got quite a reputation, with the bands, as far as when they're with us, we're going to take care of them and love on them and meet all their practical needs so that they're able to do what they need to do spiritually. If it's really hard to do that, if you're feeling hungry, if you're feeling tired. And so when they're with us, they know they're going to get taken care of. They're going to have nice full bellies. They're going to be loved on. And, we see them as the disciples. They've left their homes and they're walking into literally God knows what every time they go out somewhere. They don't know if they're going to get fed. They don't know if they're going to get paid. And, they don't have to worry about that when they're with us. And so this is every bit as much a ministry to the bands as it is to anyone else. And we've heard that from band members. We've had a couple say, I don't know what we would do if we didn't have KCF to refresh and be with family every year.
Absolutely. With that being said, if you have an opportunity, please help KCF, donate. I really don't do this. The only thing that I would ever ask you to support is a true ministry. And this is going to be one of those times. If you have an opportunity, help support this ministry, because it makes a big impact on all kinds of people on all kinds of levels. If you want to make sure your money's supporting somebody that can really do life change, this is it. Support KCF, support Pitfest, support A1M. There's a huge, great ministry that's occurring in Indiana that is reaching all across this country and then some. Do what you can. Angie, how do we do that? How do we do that?
Well, the easiest way is to visit the Kingdom Come Festival website, which is really just kingdomcomefestival.com. And there will be a tab, a donate now tab, and that gives options for Cash App and Venmo and PayPal, and then even an address if somebody would rather send a check to PO Box or something. And so that's probably the easiest way to tell people.
Yeah.
And every single penny goes to help something, and just whatever people feel led to do is what is the right amount. Just pray about it.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, pray for the festival.
Absolutely. So here's the story. This episode is about to drop within 2 or 3 weeks of the festival. So if you're hearing this and you haven't already decided to go, you've still got plenty of time to make that decision. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when is the festival, first and foremost, and where?
It's June 13th through the 15th in Greentown, Indiana, at the Howard County Vietnam Veterans Organization grounds. And so we'll have a Thursday night. Will just be evening. Bands will start around 6 or 6:30, I think. We call that the KCF kickoff. And then Friday and Saturday, all day. And it is Father's Day weekend, but it is not on Father's Day. And that'd still be a really cool weekend to hang out with your dad at the,
Fathers, make it your Father's Day gift. Children, bring your fathers to enjoy a great Father's Day weekend. No, that's for real. One tip I'll give, just as a fellow traveler, if you be careful putting it in your GPS, go to kingdomcomefestival.com, get the address and put that in your phone, because if you get in the wrong thing, you could end up quite a few miles in the wrong direction. So just Google is not always your best friend.
No.
Just saying. But I tell you what. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, we actually had a band that couldn't play because they ended up at some, like, I don't know, manure factory in
Jeez.
Delphi, or I don't even know. So
Oh, gosh.
we felt really bad for them. But as it turned out, their guitarist was starting to perform on his own, like do solo stuff. And so we let him go up during that time, and he was phenomenal. And we just felt like that was God using that to nudge him into the solo acts, acts he was supposed to be doing. So God will make, like it says in Romans, God will make good out of the bad.
Ain't that the
He
truth?
did.
Well, we hope to see you
Yes.
guys there. If you can't, hey, help us out. Drop a few dollars, donate. I mean, it really makes a big difference. It makes real life change that you get to hear about on this podcast, because we've told the stories here on this episode and in previous episodes. It's a great way to see your dollars at work, right? And then go enjoy this festival. I mean, if you don't have the money, that's okay. Go to the free festival that has some of the best music in the country. I mean, it really does. Check it out. It's going to be fantastic. Angie, thank you for coming on. Check out kingdomcomefestival.com. You can find links to the social media pages. Follow that, because you want to make sure that you're following it for next year's announcements when those start to come around. So you can find out about Pit Fest and all of those announcements and everything coming up, Check it out. I appreciate you coming on. It's been fantastic. In the meantime, you're starting to hear the outro music come up. Thank you again. Everybody, have a great night.
Thank you.
Face Medusa, 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 face Medusa. Don't miss with that, get away.